Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Beautiful Saturday afternoon here in Appalachia. 85 degrees, sunny, blue skies, hot. Been doing landscaping for the last 4 hours. Hot. But it's good for the soul. Yeah. I was thinking about how when I used to run a lot every day, 3 to 5 miles a day, the high that I would get. Literally this euphoria that would come over me when I was running. And and how well I would sleep because I would be just draining this excess energy out of my body, because from sitting on my ass all day in an office, it was a release of all that pent up or potential energy. And a lot of it's emotional energy. And a lot of what I've been thinking about and even talking about in my Healing the Divine Masculine series is emotions. So the last one, I was talking about emotions and some of the Taoist view of emotions and how we have to embrace our shadows, our dark side. We have to acknowledge it, embrace it, and then we can start to transform it, then we can transmute it, and then we can integrate it. And I was going to do the next video on something about the No More Mr. Nice Guy, but that got sidetracked. The one that's in process is more on the emotions, because this is the shadow topic, and our emotions, I think, are the critical aspect of mastering what it means to be human. And so that's why I'm focusing on it and why it's taking so long for me to put out the next video, because I'm focusing on it so much within myself. We have to embrace our dark side. That's what I talked about in the last video. But the other thing I was reading, and I'm going to cover this in the series in the next installment, part 9, something out of a book, the Montauk Chia book called Cosmic Fusion. And it talks about, and it was just beautifully written, about how we can draw strength from what we are taught or what we generally consider to be negative emotions. So those are the shame, guilt, despair, anguish, fear, anger, even pride. We can draw, and I actually have done this, and I've talked about this before, and I'm going to talk about it again in the next video, about how I drew strength from fear to then move into anger and then move through pride and then to courage. And that's going to be about 1/3 of the next video. But this is something that our society just doesn't generally talk about, or certainly teach our children, or us when we were children. And that is how to deal with all these emotions, this emotional spectrum, and our dark side. So I'm going to give you an example of my dark side. I've talked about this before, alcoholism in my family. So I'm sitting here, I've been sweating my ass off, working my butt to the bone out here for the last 4 hours, and I was sweating, and I just want a cold beer. I just want a cold beer. So I went and got a cold beer at the store. Funny thing is, the two guys in front of me were buying the exact same beer, Yielding Lager. I thought it's like the bus let off. But that's not the point. The point is that I have to learn how to enjoy this without letting it take over pushed me into having 6 of them, which fortunately hasn't happened in a very long time. But to sit out here sweating my ass off, and this is where I look at my father and my mother. And my father was the one who couldn't find the off switch. My mother, she could very easily find the off switch. I'll have just one. She would do that with chocolate. I said, you got to be kidding. How can you do that with this beautiful chocolate chip cookie? There's 12 of them. How can you just have one? But she could do that. I'll have just one. You know. And the same thing was beer. Stroh's Bohemian. I'll have just one. You know. So I'm channeling my mother now. Okay. I might have 2, but because I'm bigger than her. But I'm in control. And I can enjoy it for one day. But we have to come to grips with that. And we have to acknowledge it and embrace this part of me. This part of me that wants to taste life. Literally taste life. The sensual pleasure of tasting that cold beer. Tasting life. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. We don't want to deprive ourselves. We want to understand who is the master and who is the slave. And I've talked about this with the King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. The lover is the master. The shadow, the active shadow known as the addict, is the slave. Okay? We are in control. Right here. So that's been a big part of my week, is just examining these emotions. And I will tell you this, that I've been doing this now for, this year is going through this 2025 with this Healing the Divine Masculine series. I notice during the day and with the people that I work with that I am calmer. My relationships have gotten better with people. And has it been a shift in the energy? And I want to talk about this in the video, about as we walk through these, I'll call it up the emotional spectrum, where shame is at the bottom and peace, love, and joy are at the top, and there's a whole slew of emotions in the middle. But I can see and feel how, and you don't get to one level and then you just stay there. You bounce up and down, believe me. There are times when I'm back down in anger, okay? But you got to, when you recognize it, you can move through it very quickly. And you can get back up to courage and acceptance and joy and peace, right? But that's, again, that goes back to being conscious, living each moment in each day consciously. And it just takes practice. It's like anything else. It's like exercising a muscle. You just got to practice it every day and make the commitment every day. It's a very interesting journey. So, it's so nice to be out here, though. I will tell you this. There are moments where I still feel sadness and disappointment from past events in my life. And there are times when there's an emotional movement where I'll even allow myself to shed some tears. And when that happens, I just tell myself to allow it to happen. To just feel it and let it flow. Because we don't want to repress it. We don't want to we don't want to ignore it. We want to embrace it. You know, especially when you've lived as many years as I have and have had as many experiences as I've had, especially experiences with other people, very close, intimate experiences. We can't help but have those memories, and those memories are going to trigger emotions, and those emotions are going to trigger feelings and responses in the body. So we want to embrace that, and we want to let it flow, and we want to change the story. Talked about that a week or so ago, the stories that we tell ourselves. We can change the story. And that's not a way of deflecting or dismissing. It's just a way of taking a different perspective. And there's nothing wrong with taking a different perspective, because my perspective of an event is going to be somewhere between a little bit and a lot different than the other person's perspective of the same event. Because we are all unique and we all have a unique perspective. So we have to acknowledge that, which means that we can be gentle and kind with ourselves and say, you know, I can look at that from a different perspective, which then can trigger a different emotional response. It doesn't mean we ignore the original perspective. We don't want to ignore let's say, the painful perspective and go, oh, it's all love and light. No, that's not that's spiritual bypassing. We don't want to do that. But we can look at it, we can hold both perspectives. I think so. Because we never truly know the real reason why some things happen. If we believe that there are forces in this universe beyond our comprehension, and that those forces can manifest into things like soul level agreements, then we don't really know why some things happen. And this is why I've come to believe that it helps to try and take multiple perspectives of something, which includes, let's say, the other person's perspective, which is completely valid. It's a valid perspective. But we can do that to examine the events of our life. And by doing that, we then can examine the different emotional responses to each of those perspectives. And we can examine the emotions within ourselves. Where do we hold that emotion? How do we process that emotion? Hopefully we don't hold it. We just let it let it flow out, flow through and out. But we're going to hold some things. We're just wired that way. But we can really start to take this very deep look into ourselves, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. But it just takes practice, a very open mind, an extremely open heart, and a quiet place, like right here. Find a sacred place. Quiet the mind, feel the body, ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. It's a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness, especially for you men. All right? So, until next time, beautiful day out here. Cosmic energy, earth energy, heart energy. Send loving heart energy out to all beings, all dimensions, all timelines, all realities. May this day be filled with compassion, loving kindness, and courage. Bye for now.